Wednesday the 22nd of July at 9:14 a.m.
Adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn the meeting. I'll just adjourn the meeting for a minute.
Do you have anyone to confirm on the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 8th of July? Yep, Councillor Taylor, do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? Go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0.
Brendan, can we have it on the iPad?
Yeah, Kelly's just send me the invite so we can get it.
Yeah, well, mine just. I've got a bit behind.
Okay, do we have anyone to move on the minutes of the budget submissions and financial planning standing committee 15th of July? So it's 7. So that's 7 over there. 7.
Page 7.
Page 7. Okay, do we have anyone on 15th July?
So I'll move on that.
Councillor O'Neill, any opposition? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, the declarations of conflict.
There's minutes from yesterday.
Another set of minutes?
Yesterday.
Minutes.
They've been circulated.
Oh, Kelly's printing. Oh,
Okay, we just might adjourn for a second while I read those ones.
So I'm just going to very minor thing that the notice on the back page, councillors just some things which need to review, which I fix now with the responsible officer. I push that to the previous page in the column of the minutes, just at the top of page 14.
What was it, sorry?
Just at the top of page 14, I moved the electronic copy up to the previous page.
So it's not on the back page.
Just
Okay, we have a mover.
I'm happy to move, just for completeness though, on page 6, under the motion that was put by Councillor Guthrie, it says no seconder. In the narrative below it, it should, for completeness, say that no seconder was sought.
Okay, we have,
sorry, Councillor O'Neill, I tend to take that out altogether to avoid confusion.
Take what out?
The no second reference. I'm just going to read Councillor.
Oh, okay.
It's just a bit confusing having that.
Because it implies that there was no seconder, but no seconder was sought.
Yeah, so it's better if I just remove the reference.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm happy with that.
happy with that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Declarations of conflict of interest. Councillor O'Neill.
I, Councillor Cameron O'Neill, declare that I have a material personal interest as defined by the Local Government Act 2009, Section 175B for agenda item 13.3 with the subject heading Country University Centre Maranoa. The particulars of the interest arise because of the entity Country University Centres Maranoa, of which I'm a non-executive director and chair, and that the Country University Centre Maranoa stands to gain a benefit or suffer a loss directly or indirectly, depending on the outcome of the Council's consideration of this matter, in accordance with section 175C2B of the Local Government Act 2009, I will leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, do we have any other conflicts, councillors? Councillor Hancock?
I, Councillor Joanne Hancock, declare that I have a material personal interest as defined by the Local Government Act 2009, section 175B, for agenda item C19, with the subject heading Tender Specifications, Production and Distribution of the Voluntary Bulletin. The name of the personal entity who stands to gain a benefit or suffer a loss, either directly or indirectly, depending on the outcome of the consideration of the matter at the meeting, is Surat Post and News Proprietary Limited. The nature of my relationship to the entity is owned by my husband Graham Hancock and my parents Paul and Rachel Paravicini, and the Surat Post and News describe how you, the person or other entity, stands to gain a benefit or suffer a loss, either directly or indirectly, depending on the outcome of the council's consideration of this matter, is in regards to the postage of the voluntary bulletin within the tender specifications. In accordance with section 175C2B of the Local Government Act 2009, I will leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on. And I, Councillor Joanne Hancock, declare that I have a conflict of interest as defined by the Local Government Act 2009, section 175D and E, for agenda item C20, with the subject heading Approval of Water Storage, Hayroma Dam. The personal interest arises because of my relationship with another person. The name of the other person is Michael Hancock. The nature of my relationship with this person is he is my son. The nature of the person's interest in the matter is he is a manager of one of the ACC properties at Millmerran. I'll be dealing with the matter by leaving the room while the matter is discussed and voted upon.
Okay, any other conflicts? Okay,
Mr Mayor, Councillor O'Neill, would you have another conflict? Based on the Courier Mail yesterday, there's some reference to you having a conflict between the LNP and the Maranoa Regional Council. When you're just asking.
Is there a matter on the agenda relating to the
No, just that you're named in the article as
well, there's nothing on the agenda relating to the Liberal National Party that I have no conflict with.
okay.
Unless, Mr Mayor, Councillor McMullen would like to raise one.
No, just it was presented to me this morning, a piece in the paper that can ask the question, is there a conflict of interest, and that's what I raised.
So which particular item?
No, it's not an item here,
Is it conflict with business as well?
just being mentioned in the Courier Mail. So.
Yeah, so today's about the meeting agenda. Which particular item would that relate to?
Oh, okay, no, it's just the article, it's not in the...
Really establish that.
So it might have been a general question, was it?
Well, I just asked the question, yeah.
So it sounds like it's got to be to do with an agenda
Okay,
item.
right.
So if there's no agenda item,
That's
that's how you understand it, so yeah.
Well, we've just gone through the declarations of conflicts of interest for the meeting, so that we need to add them.
okay.
So with these items, so. Okay, we'll get going on the agenda.
If at any point, Councillor McDonald, you identify an item through
Yeah,
the course
yeah,
of the meeting, please raise that as you would any other.
Okay, page 43, 11.1, related party disclosure policy. I've got a question. How does this vary to the one we had last year? Updated policy, or is it a brand new? Yep. have any other questions, councillors? Does anyone wish to move on this? Councillor Hancock?
I'll move that the council adopt the related party disclosure policy as presented.
We have a second. Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Page 58. Non-current asset accounting policy. So, on your yep. So, what about this one? Is this the same, or is this an update? Or?
It's mostly the same. There are a couple of amendments which is on the budget last year with the recognition of that in regards to business computers and laptops and then also canteen open
I think in the private world, they probably like to see it the other way around. And is this state government making these changes for us?
No, it was basically through, there's been no changes in the legislation on the accounting policies. It's been brought about due to the budget deliberation for the last financial year. So it's been council decision.
Is everyone? D, councillors. So D is our operations management and finance. Councillor Burke does know.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Edwards.
Move that the council adopt the non-current asset accounting policy as presented.
We have a seconder. Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Page 70, 11.3, investment register as 30th of June 2020. We have a mover.
I'd like to move that the investment report as at 30th June 2020 be received and noted.
We have a seconder, Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition to the motion? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Uh, 11.4, monthly financial reports, period ending 30th of June 2020. We have a mover. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that the monthly financial report for the period ending 30th of June 2020 be received and noted.
We have a seconder. Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Sorry, page 113. Uh, 11.5, Selective Inspection Program 2020. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council resolve that under section 1131 of the Animal Management Cats and Dogs Act 2008, Council approves the selective inspection program to allow authorised persons to enter and inspect selected properties in part of its local government area. In accordance with section 1135A of the AMCAD Act 2008, the purpose of the program is to monitor compliance with Chapter 3 registration and Chapter 4 regulated dog provisions of the AMA. In accordance with section 1135B and E of the AMCAD Act 2008, the program will commence on Monday the 7th of September and conclude on Friday the 27th of November 2020. 4. In accordance with section 1135C of the AMCAD Act 2008, inspections may occur at premises situated within the townships of Amby, Inju, Jackson, Mitchell, Muckadilla, Mungalala, Roma, Surat, Wollongabilla and Yulbar, being the areas defined as designated town areas in Schedule 13 of Subordinate Local Law Number 2, Animal Management 2011, where an authorised person has reasonable belief that an unregistered and or regulated dog may be present. 5. In accordance with section 114 of the AMCAD Act 2008, a public notice will be given in the local newspaper on the 10th of August 2020 and on the council website stating that the program will commence on Monday the 7th of September and conclude on Friday the 27th of November 2020.
We have a second.
I'm sorry, no, just for completeness, you're happy if we number the first few items 1, 2 and 3?
Yeah, sorry. Yep.
Do we have a second for that? Councillor Taylor, any opposition? I'll speak in opposition. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. This is an important part of the annual role of council to ensure that we have the responsible pet owners that we know that we do across the region and that animals are registered, they're housed appropriately and our staff have done a wonderful job over the last number of years to ensure that we do have the appropriate registrations in place, particularly for dogs, but now for cats, and that people that have the responsibility over their animals are adhering to what they need to do.
I'll speak against the motion. Councillors, the feedback that I've got from the general public, this is the most unpopular decision that I believe council makes each year. And this happened in the previous term, and the feedback that I get from residents that this is completely unfriendly. This allows the situation that officers can go into people's yards without invitation, checking on obviously unregistered or used to be dogs, but now it's cats. Without any invitation, and the feedback I've had from residents that this is completely against how they believe council should operate. The feedback that I get from residents that this does nothing for relations between council and the general public, and the feedback that I get that I've had people in tears over this. There's large fines that can be attributed to not having them registered, and I believe that I don't support selective inspection program. Also, the feedback that I get from the general public is they cannot get their head around that they council officers are allowed to go into private property to do that without notices first and so forth when they're not home. And the feedback, I think this is an extremely upsetting policy that I believe there's other ways to enact, making sure that we can keep the community safe as far as registrations. And the feedback that I've had is that this also causes financial hardship where the community does not believe it's necessary.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Morning, everyone.
And Mr. Mayor, now that Sam's here through you as part of what she's about to share, Could you just, Sam, would you mind just providing some context, because I'm a bit confused now, about what the steps are for people to have to enter properties?
So outside of a program or?
No, during the program.
Okay, so, because outside of a program, we can't enter a property without notice of permission. What this piece of legislation does, and why it's coming to a council meeting today, is that it gives our officers a different power to enter a property without permission for a designated period, but only for the purpose of what the inspection is there to do. So we actually prefer the owner to be home because we can have a discussion with them about why we're there and confirm things. We always go and knock on the door, rattle the gate, yell out, council, you know, is anyone home? And then it doesn't enable us to go into any sort of actual structure, just the yard of the property. So it allows us to go to the front yard, look into the backyard, look around, take a photograph of dogs if there are dogs there, and then we'll go back and determine whether those dogs meet the description of those ones in our database, and then if they do and they're not registered, then a fine is issued to that person. If the person is there, we have a discussion and the fine is issued on the spot. This is the only time during the year where we issue on-the-spot fines. Normally throughout the other 9 months of the year, we give the owners a chance to do the right thing, give them an advisory notice, give them 2 weeks notice to come in and register their dog. But I guess that on the other side of this, just before I got here this morning, I ran a report to see where we're sitting at with unregistered animals, so I thought that might give you a better idea of, you know, how I'm making a decision today. We still currently have, even after sending out our renewals in the first week of June and sending out reminder SMSs on the 13th of July, we still have 578 unregistered dogs within the Maranoa at this point in time as of this morning. 37 unregistered cats, but the focus of this program is not about cats. The focus of this program is unregistered dogs and regulated dog provisions, which is dogs that have been involved in dog attacks and they have been declared as menacing or dangerous. And this gives us the ability to go and do our annual inspection to make sure they're still compliant with permit conditions, so that their dog is still living where it's supposed to be living, it's still being kept in an enclosure, all the signage is up, all of those sorts of things as well. So, but generally we make even a time with those customers because we want to be there with them so that they know that we're coming with the regulated dog provisions. Yeah, I guess that hopefully that information will help.
Got another question through you, ma'am. Sam, now that you've shared that, that is a very high number, and you only know that because they were once registered animals and now they're not.
Correct.
What part of what I've just moved, and that Councillor Taylor second, could we amend so that it isn't on the spot fine, that in fact it is a notice issue, and that those people have a period of time to come in? Because at the moment they've received a notice in the mail, they may have received a backup or a text, but now, given that's so high, if someone knocks on the door, maybe that's the final reminder, because that is, I think that's one of the highest numbers I've ever heard after renewals that we've got unregistered animals.
It's I have to do some further analysis. That's unregistered animals, but that may not be as many properties. So there could be 2 dogs per property. So it could be around that 300 properties that have unregistered animals. Last year we inspected 272 unregistered, but yes, you could amend the resolution to add what type of enforcement action you would like to have or not have as part of the program. At the moment, that isn't actually in the resolution about what we do once we identify non-compliance. So you could add something to the resolution about how you would like us to approach the program in relation to identification of non-compliance if you would like to.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, saying so they got 578. How do you know they're not dead or gone somewhere else? Or
That's very good. Very good.
I mean, you need facts to behind that.
Absolutely.
I'm not just saying 578.
This program helps us do that. So we've already removed 73 animals from the system from calls from customers or return to sender. So if we get a return to sender notification from the renewal notice, we try to ring that person to determine, is the dog still alive, are you still in the region, and we update the system accordingly. But we traditionally have a lot of owners, they forget. They forget to call you. And so this program, what we find is by going out to these properties, a lot of the time the dogs have left, but new dogs are there with different owners that still haven't registered, and so that also is a way of us identifying that and updating our system. So the last program, I think we removed about 400 records from the system because of the program, so it was a great way to improve the accuracy of our data as well, so that we're not wasting ratepayers' money sending out renewal notices to people that aren't there.
Can I ask how much a normal dog registration, what the fine is when someone hasn't registered a dog that was given out last year and he's left the inspection program?
Sure, definitely. So the cost of registration of an average dog that's not desexed at the moment, because of the 50% discount for COVID, is $32.50. And a fine is $266 for an unregistered dog. That's not set by council, that's set by the state government legislation, so it's 2 penalty points. Normally the value of the penalty point goes up every financial year, but this year the state government has decided to leave it flat, so it hasn't gone up from last year, so it's around that $133.45, so from memory is the value of the penalty point. So yes, it is quite an expensive fine compared to having to pay registration, which is why we want people to pay their registration. We don't want to fine people. It's a horrible situation for my officers to be in. You know, it's not a nice thing to have to go to somebody's house and fine them. Their job is hard enough as it is. We just want people to do the right thing. Last year, we issued a public notice to say that we were coming to do this program. We got 700 new dog registrations. There were 700 dogs out there that we didn't even know about. So they weren't renewals, they were brand new registrations because we had a box dropped to every house.
So we can do that this time as well?
If this is approved, yes.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Sam, did you say this will give the officers permission to go into the yard when no one's home?
But this piece of legislation only for that term.
Yeah, for that term.
Yeah, just for that 3-month period. Officers don't like doing that, by the way. Yeah, so you know it does make them a little uncomfortable. But a lot of cases, people are home. If we've been there, we always leave in the office. The resident isn't home. We leave a calling card to let them know that we've been there as well.
Any other questions?
Just on Councillor McMullen's point, that's consistent with every other year we've done the inspection, though. That's not new this year, is it?
It's consistent with every other year, and it's consistent with what every other council does, because it's actually in the Animal Management Cats and Dogs Act that this has to be approved by council resolution, an inspection program, and that gives the officers a special power of entry just for that.
I thought you meant the first time.
No.
I know.
Sorry, I misunderstood the
Yeah.
question. No, that's been the same.
For you. Sam, so I enter the premises, see a dog there, ask if it's not registered or if it says not registered, and you immediately fine them $266.
Unless they've got a very valid excuse. So the valid excuse might be they might just have moved to the region and moved within the last 2 weeks. The dog may be 3 months old and 2 days, you know, just over that 12-week point. You know, if they've got exceptional circumstances where they've been in hospital, you know, we allow all of those things.
So there's discretion.
Absolutely.
Discretion
Discretion.
For the county officers, they've got a discretion.
They have a discretion, but what we try to do is consistent throughout the program, so that we don't have, you know, one person getting very upset that they've got a fine and the next one they've not. But so there has to be very extenuating circumstances for them not to.
And if there is, you can go away from the premises, go back to the council and think about it. Is that correct?
Or on my officers generally can make that decision on the spot based on the information that they've got.
Thank you.
Councillor O'Neill.
Mayor, if there's no other questions, I've got an amendment that I'd like to put to Councillor Taylor.
I have a question. When you said then that all the councils, I think you were talking about a selective inspection program, but not all councils do a selective inspection program.
That's correct.
And just to your point, Councillor Edwards, the history has been generally that the feedback I've had from the general public is when there's a dog found unregistered, there is a fine given, unless there's a reason, like they've paid it, whatever, there's something. So this, the feedback I've had, there's no discretion because they're trying to be consistent, so they just fine everyone, just so you understand. Okay, Councillor O'Neill.
So Mayor, I'd like Councillor Taylor seconded to consider that point 6, that officers issue a registration notice at time of inspection to be paid within 14 days, upon which, if that hasn't been paid, a fine will be issued.
Okay, would anyone wish to speak
For
the motion?
That would work, it would just be called an advisory notice, if that's okay, Councillor O'Neill.
I'm issue an advisory notice.
Yes, yes. That's actually what it,
You'll have to check with Councillor Taylor, she's happy with that.
that's fine, that's fine.
Happy with that, Councillor Taylor? Would anyone wish to speak for the motion? Would anyone wish to speak against the motion? Well, then, if no one else wishes to speak, does the Mayor wish to sum up?
Just to say, I think this has been a good discussion, and to have the officer who is the expert in the field in which the report is authored, I think is important to hear from. So thank you for Councillor Taylor for asking that. And I think having this extra point that we've included, which is an advisory notice, will give a bit of breathing space to the individuals that may have just simply forgotten or missed it, and hopefully, Mayor, that will curtail some of the negativity that you've clearly heard from, which I'd imagine are from people that have ultimately been fined. But I can say that there is some view in the community that are happy that council are continuing to address the roaming dogs of our towns. And because that has been a huge issue, not just in the years that you've served as Mayor, but prior to that as well, that we had a significant issue right across our community. And I think the staff are doing what they're doing to address those concerns.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 633 by corporate division.
Thanks.
Thanks, Annie.
Item 12.1, application for funding under the Australian Government's 2021-2022 Black Spot Program. Do we have any questions, councillors?
Cameron, is this the road that we got a letter from somebody about? Earlier, it was Mount Abundance.
No, were you talking about the meeting, Akadilla meeting?
Yeah, it was.
This is the other end.
Oh, that's part of that one.
No, it's not, it's the same road, but this is a different intersection. They're raising.
I thought we got a letter from the Skinsons about the Mount Abundance road sometime too. Anyway, I'll have a look.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But it's the same with raising Akadilla.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not this one.
Yeah.
Binya Lane and Mount Abundance, and then Massey Lane and Mount Abundance have been raised. Nothing to do with this.
Have you heard about that?
Through now, I'm aware of there's a request in the system here for some additional bus route signage at the intersection of Massey Lane and that, so we've currently got that's on our radar and to just install some bus stop signage in and around that intersection.
I won't get sidetracked, but after the board, I think there's a letter coming from the group about the actual intersections with the road trains not giving way and that kind of thing. Yeah, that's another one.
And they've had reports in near misses again, so yeah. But this is obviously a bigger feeder again than that one would be, because it's on the southern road, Mount Abundance.
Yeah, Councillor, for those who are not familiar with this area, it's very, it's quite busy. I shouldn't say busy, but it's quite a critical intersection. You've got Mount Abundance being on the southern and that, so this is something that would be in partnership with TMR, but I think the recommendation as drafted, I think this is important for council, even though it is an intersection with TMR road, because the visibility of this location is not great. been quite successful over the last 2 or 3 years on Black Spot, and I think this is just another project to keep trying to advocate for road safety improvements around the area. So I've already discussed this with TMR and have their full support of that location.
I think Black Spot know about Maranoa's applications.
Yeah, just starting to get a bit of a presentation. Expect one from Maranoa when the real opens, which we hadn't previously done because they were notoriously difficult to get because you're competing with road safety issues in the south east Queensland and across the country, to be quite honest, because it's a federal government program.
So it's true, Mr Mayor. So they don't have a urban and rural, it's all categorised in one pool.
That's correct, yeah. Yep.
Any questions, councillors? I'd like to move that council submit a proactive road safety proposal to upgrade the intersection of Mount Abundance Road and Roma Southern Road under the Australian Government's 2021-2022 Black Spot program. And number 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign the funding agreements with the relevant funding body if the applications is successful. We have a seconder, Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? Yes, I do believe that being able to use Black Spot funding if we're successful is very important, and I'm extremely concerned about near misses and that terrible day when you get the news that someone that you love has been affected by an accident, and the more we can do to reduce this in our communities, the better the community of Maranoa will be. Would anyone else wish to speak? Councillor.
I'd just like to thank the officer for bringing it up, Mr Mayor, because it's been an issue ever since I've been driving. So, no disrespect to anyone, but it's been a long time. You know, probably should have been done 10 councils ago.
Yeah. Would anyone else wish to speak? Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 12.2, request for participation in World Hepatitis Day, 28th of July 2020. We have a mover. Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that the council noted the email from Hepatitis Queensland requesting council's participation in World Hepatitis Day. I'd also like to move that the council support and participate in World Hepatitis Day by amending the variable street tree lighting in McDowell Street, Roma, to display only green on the date of the 28th of July 2020. And we'd also like to move that a media release be issued to inform the community of the motivation behind the green colour change in the tree lighting.
Sorry, Councillor Guthrie, are you happy if we just number
Happy.
those 1, 2,
Numbers?
3? Yes.
Well, I think Councillor McMullen was first. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0.
Page 137.
177.
There's been a change.
Oh, where's the change?
I mentioned yesterday.
Remember one that changed.
Oh, that's why I thought the new one was to correct it.
No, that was the subsequent one. That was the second one
Oh, okay.
that had been moved yesterday afternoon.
After this was printed?
Correct.
Oh, sorry.
There's been a,
So we skip over to 177.
So 12.3 is now in the.
correct.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right, yeah, as of yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, that's, okay. I'm with you now. Sorry.
13.1 is the item number that has changed.
That's fine. So 13.1, change application other than a minor change for development approval 2012/18039 for material change of use, medium impact industry sewage treatment plant. We have a mover, Councillor O'Neill.
I'll do my best here. With some assistance from the CEO. I do not want to read all of it, but I don't want there to be an issue, as there was. So I'm moving the council give a decision notice to the applicant agreeing to the proposed changes and negotiated decision notice reference 2012/18039.
Sorry, Councillor.
I'm just, Julie, there is a lot we'll be here all day to read.
Make the following changes as noted in the report.
Page numbers, can I do page numbers? Because it looks to me that it is pages
So
178.
please don't do page numbers, just in case there's an issue overnight. Are you moving from the officer's recommendation, Councillor?
Yes, I'm moving, that's what I'll move.
No, sorry, are you doing anything different to the officer's recommendation?
No, I'm not.
So in that case, given that it is an open item, if the rest of the councillors are happy that you're moving in accordance with the officer's recommendation, and then the whole list will be included in the minutes.
Mayor, I will move on the officer's recommendation relating to item 13.1. In accordance with the officer's recommendation.
Are the rest of the councillors happy with that, rather than reading?
There's 8 pages.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to avoid.
We'll just wait and make sure we've got it right.
It's on our website.
We have a seconder for that motion. Councillor Edwards. And is there, sorry, you happy to second that motion? Okay, do we have any opposition to the motion? Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
Just to say, Mr. Mayor, that I think this is a really exciting development for obviously the individuals that are involved, but for the region. I mean, we were lucky enough to hear from the applicant yesterday through a presentation on what they are planning on doing, and I think good on them for giving this a go, and I wish them all the best, and I would like to think that this will be an economic stimulus to our local economy with what they have planned. So congratulations to the gala.
Okay, Councillor Taylor.
Councillor Taylor.
Edward.
Thank you.
I too would just like to say I was impressed with the briefing that we got yesterday. Hats off to them. I hope they do really, really well.
Okay, would anyone else like to speak?
I'll back up the same words. I don't think anyone here probably wouldn't be anyone that would think that way.
Okay, well on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, moving on to page 242.
Item 32.
Item 13.2. Delegation of authority to execute water agreements for community water activities.
Water facilities.
From community water facilities. We have a mover, councillor.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 delegate the authority to the Chief Executive Officer to execute off-take agreements for excess water available from council-owned water facilities that do not form part of the Urban Water Supply Scheme or are managed in accordance with Stockbridge Management Act 2002, and 2, waive the water agreement fee for non-for-profit community organisations for the purpose of drawing water under a standard off-take agreement.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Do we have any opposition? I'll speak in opposition. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Right, well, I'll speak to the motion. I don't agree with this motion because I believe that our schools should benefit from the same community organisation. I believe they're a community organisation, whoever runs them. And in this, if I understand it correctly, I'm happy to be stand corrected, and that community schools connected to this water do have to pay for it, and I believe that whatever happens, we should be supporting our schools, and council could do this in line with community, non-for-profit community group. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Taylor.
Can you put the schools in there with the non-for-profit community organisations? The standard offtake, could you explain that to me?
Yeah, sure. So basically, this is an offtake where we put a bore in or something like that, and we limit the amount of water everyone gets, and then it goes into a tank, and then the user uses it. So like we, for instance, have down at Begonia, there's a school down there, and they have to pay for the water. If there was a different motion or the mover wishes to change it, could be incorporated to allow schools to take that in the same as community organisations.
Mr Mayor, I wouldn't be in agreement to that unless, if we're going to support the government schools, we should support our residents, urban residents that are using it as well. So.
Well, anyway, let's test the motion. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Just ask a question, Mr Mayor. So I'm assuming that if people apply for the access to take up this opportunity, that they're actually being charged for the cost of the water usage.
That's correct.
So it's only the enabling them to access the water that's available.
No, that's the total fee.
Is there a fee associated with it?
It's here somewhere. It's a completely different, through you, Mr Mayor, it's a completely different setup to town water, because it's rural land access. So the fees are there, I just saw them.
And so if you'd like the manager of the railway officer to be present for this item, it might be helpful to lay on the table. We can organise that.
Yeah, I'm happy to lay it on the table for later in the meeting if there is that.
Okay.
Can I just clarify?
Sure.
By laying it on the table, when we come back to it, do we still have a mover and a seconder on this motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, page 253.
I'm leaving the room.
Councillor O'Neill is leaving the room. Item 13.3, Country University Centre, Maranoa. Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 allocate the amount of $2,289 remaining in work order number 20551.2800.2001 2020 at 30 June 2020 to CUC Maranoa Ltd in cash, and 2, commit to further in-kind assistance with Council's Department of Economic and Community Development until 30 June 2021.
We have a seconder. Councillor Guthrie, any opposition to the motion? Does anyone want to speak to the motion?
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, the interim board is now incorporated as a company limited. We'd allocated $6,500 to begin with, the council did, to support the establishment of the Company University Centre. And there was some very specific things that we could spend those dollars on. There is an amount of $2,300 or so remaining. It will be some time. We're trying to negotiate with the TAFE at the moment to have the Company University Centre actually occupy one of the wings, underutilised wing of the TAFE, which is an amazing arrangement. So it'll take several months, and I think probably by the first semester next year, they may be in operation. So the grant's been approved, and I think it's just going through the big funding at the moment, prior to signing that. There will be some support necessary for that board. Preliminarily, since we've had this from the beginning and created it, we're in the best position to support. Donna Shirley is the director that's responsible for making it all happen, so she's actually leading it, and our role is really to support her in some administrative way or any way possible. So just allocate these funds to help that, and I think that they quite possibly could need some support from council just by way of my assistance and my staff for the next financial year till they get themselves right. So I'm pushing that.
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to speak? Well, then we'll go.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to say that I think this is a fantastic opportunity for the whole Maranoa region, and this resolution shows the support of council for this initiative for the region.
Okay, well on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Item 13.4, user agreement for Bungle Street Ovals and John School. We have a mover.
I'll move, Mr. Mayor.
We have a seconder.
Are we
Councillor Lavery.
Are we reading it?
I better read it first.
Are you better? Yes. Exactly.
I'll move, Mr. Mayor, that Council 1 enter into a user agreement with St John's Catholic School for a 5-year term for the use of the Bungle Street Ovals, with the new agreement expiring on the 12th of September 2025. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to execute the user agreement and any other associated documentation.
Yeah, so we have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. User agreement in June Cutting Club. We have a mover, Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that the Council 1 enter into a non-exclusive user agreement with the Injune Cutting Club for a period of 5 years for the use of the Injune Rodeo and Cutting Grounds. 2, authorising the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to execute the user agreement and any other associated documentation.
I have a question. Right, you would like to second?
I was going to second that.
So, seconded by Councillor Hancock. Have we consulted with the other stakeholders and are they happy for this agreement to be put in place? for instance, Engineering Radio Committee, whoever uses that facility?
So it's a non-exclusive agreement, so there'll be a number of agreements done with the different groups up there. The cutting pipeline existing users, which is formalising what's already happening.
But could any of the other clubs be surprised or agreed with? Or, what I mean is, once we formalise this, it's not exclusive of the themselves, but have we done any consultation with the other?
I don't believe we have spoken to the other users, it's just formalising what's in place now. I don't believe we have been.
Can it be changed?
It could be changed if there was some issues coming about regarding the proposed use of the road. It could be dealt with at that time.
Through you, Mr Mayor, so that would just come back, if there was an issue, that would come back to us
Yes.
to resolve.
Yes.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Tanya, the other users of the facility would have their own user agreement for the facility.
They do.
Yeah, so this is
We're
pretty
working through user agreements
for everyone across the Maranoa.
Yes.
So they've all got their own, and it would be pretty similar.
They're all very standardised.
That's right. So one wouldn't be getting any different to another.
Now, would anyone wish to, is there any opposition to the motion? Does anybody wish to speak to the motion? Righto, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. .6, request for sponsorship Queensland Young Auctioneers. Do we have a move? Councillor O'Neill.
Mayor, I'm happy to move after I ask this question, if that's all right.
Sure.
So through you, I just note that point 1 on page 300 says branding with council's logo. I actually don't agree with it being branded with council's logo. I think it needs to be branded with the Roma sale yards, because that's where the benefit's going to be. So I'll move on the resolution on that basis. So Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 authorise the CEO to sign the agreement. 2, approve the sponsorship request for a 3-year period starting in 2020-2021. 3, draw the first sponsorship payment of $3,400 excluding GST from the sponsorship budget of GL 2887 2249 2001 in 2020 and 21. 4, commit to allocate the second sponsorship payment of $3,300 excluding GST from the sponsorship budget GL 2887 2249 2001 in the 2021-2022 budget. And 5, commit to allocate the third sponsorship payment of $3,300 excluding GST from the sponsorship budget GL 2887 2249 2001 in the 2022-2023 budget. And now I have a further question through you, Mayor. CEO, we can't resolve to do this for the forward years. Can I ask how much is in the sponsorship budget now?
Sorry, now as in 2021.
Current budget.
Or we budget for it in the 2021, or it's drawn from the sales budget.
Or prepaid?
Well, I think that's what we're going to have to do. Yeah.
But also, on your thinking there, Councillor O'Neill, would you be considering just putting an extra point to say that
Those 2 years can revert to the budget deliberations for the following 2 years. That way, it will be front of the council's mind when they
Except, I think, sorry, Mayor Ed, They're asking for a commitment now because there's a price difference between 3 years and 1 year, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And look, through FMA, I did discuss this with strategic finance advice. It is lawful within your current term to commit to next year's budget. If at budget time next year, you allocate those funds. So it's lawful to do that. The resolution is lawful. It's my understanding.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Did you say it's lawful?
It's lawful, yes. It's legal, provided you're very open in the resolution that it says there to commit to allocate the second sponsorship payment next year.
Well, I'm uncomfortable, even though you got that advice, I'm uncomfortable with that now because we could do that on anything.
Well, ordinarily it does pertain to, so for instance, if we're in 2021 and provided council that it works similar to the carryover projects, that we can spend on that carryover project provided that it is included then within the budget of 2021. Could we just lay it on the table, just to later in the meeting, just to double check that?
Would a suggestion be that we budget it out this year, but then commit to pay for it out of this budget, but in their respective years? Which is essentially carrying it over, actually, is what I'm saying.
So I move we lay it on the table.
Mayor, can I think you were going to suggest something. You were asking me about another dot point, which was...
Yeah, the branding, to say the branding will be Roma Sale Yards.
Well, for completeness, before we do that, you've moved a procedural motion.
No, well, I'm happy with all
Well, I'll have that so it's in there when we, point 6, that the branding for the sponsorship be the Roma Sale Yards.
Okay, I move that we...
Or do you want to get a second announced?
Well, do we have a second? Councillor Hancock, and are you happy with that, Councillor Hancock, so far?
Yeah, and that would just take in, that last point would take in all the points over here where it talks about all the branding, wherever, being live stream, screen, it'd just be the branding.
Branding would be Roma Sale.
And so, Mayor, if you're moving a procedural motion to lay it on the table, I just wonder, can you put a question on that we actually find out whether there is scope now to pay for the entire sponsorship out of the revenue generated from sales?
And we'll also include in the question Councillor Hancock's point about funding it as another option.
Yeah, so I'm happy to, I move to lay it on the table for later in the meeting and get answers on the 2 questions posed. All those in favour? 9-0. .7, Zonta Community Grant Extension Request. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move that Council 1 grant Zonta a date change on their community grant funded activity to no later than the 30th of June 2021. Request Zonta complete an amended grant acceptance agreement stating the change in date. And 3, if the event cannot be delivered in the 2020-21 financial period, request that the money is returned to the Council Community Grant budget.
We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Just to say, Mr Mayor, that I was on the panel in the previous term that assessed the community grants in which this was one of the applicants. This is a great project, and if we can do anything to help them be able to deliver it under the circumstances that they now face because of the COVID-19 restrictions, then I think we should. So that's why I've supported and moved this resolution.
Okay.
Previous event for council's benefit, I have checked as the only event under the community grants program that is subject to this code issue, so there won't be more coming.
Righto, we're going to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. .8, Queensland Public Libraries Association. Do we have a mover? Queensland Public Libraries Association membership. Do we have a mover? Councillor McDonald.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 approves the Maranoa Regional Council's membership of the Queensland Public Libraries Association at a cost of $197.47 for the 2020-2021 financial year. 2, nominates and that Council nominates and approves the CEO as the nominated contact officer for membership purposes.
We have a seconder, Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition?
Just got a question through you, CEO. I mean, it's nice that it's coming to us and we could read it and it was great, but it's $197.47. Surely someone has a delegation to be able to make this decision without it coming to council. We probably spent more in printing of the paper than the $197.
Thoughts have crossed my mind, Councillor O'Neill, that there may be merit in just councils considering all memberships collectively as part of its budget rather than line by item like this. I'll take that on notice and we'll tidy up the bigger picture of membership.
And maybe it could be something to do with if there's any controversy or risk, I'm sure it can be like that, but
sure.
It can be brought back.
I reckon this is low risk.
Yeah.
Very low risk.
Okay, so we had a mover, we had a seconder, Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. On 13.9, Festival of Small Halls 2020. We have a mover, Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 agree to host the Festival of Small Halls Winter and Summer 2020 tour in the Maranoa at a total cost of $3,000. 2, budget to be allocated in the 2020-21 budget period in GL 02885.2001.2001 Arts and Cultural Materials and Services. 3, that Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign the performance agreement when received.
We have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition?
I just have a quick question, Mr Mayor, just to answer. Ed, obviously we'll be going through the same as we always go through, put out an expression of interest to the community groups. Sure, thank you.
Do we have anyone wishes to speak to the motion or against? Okay.
I just would like to say it'd be exciting to see some of these events coming back into our region on the back end of COVID and when we can open up to events again.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 13.10, Milbar War Mural Treatment Project. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that the council approves allocation of funds from the Arts and Culture, Materials and Services budget, GL 2885-2201-2001, at a total cost of $6,276.50 to allow the completion of this project.
We have a second, Councillor Edwards. I've got a question. In relation to people doing the work, they have been approved by Museums Queensland or they have accredited give us names of people and so forth.
Good question, Mr Mayor. I can't answer that truthfully. They are endorsed by the Regional Arts Group. They're quite bigger in Milbar. But
Timing, Kim. Thank you.
I'll just ask people here associated with arts experience.
Oh, sorry, probably more like museums, you know, like are they accredited from, you know, we to do with our collection here, council, we get people out and give it people New Zealand when you look at something, and they got accreditation from them or they approved or one of the respirators.
I don't know the answer, I can find out.
Okay, I move we take this on the table till later in the meeting to get further information. All those in favour? 9-0.
And I guess, if they're not accredited, like what background have we ensured? Is that what you're asking, Mr Mayor? We're ensuring that they can do the job and not,
Well, it's a historic piece.
That's
and
right.
I'd like to know that the best people in Queensland are doing it.
Doing fiddly
Yeah, just, and I expect that they would, but I'd like to, with the due
And
diligence.
Mr Mayor, when you actually have a look at their logos here, written under their names, they're written down as painting conservator. So I'm assuming that that's an actual accreditation or some sort of justification or legitimacy of their role. It is worth checking.
Do you remember the New Zealand, Queensland, or whatever that come out? Just, yeah, I'm sure they'll know about them if,
Well, it's got,
live down in Europe.
professional member or something there, PA. I don't know if that could be just qualified.
No, I expect it would be, but I think it's very good to check.
Double check.
Yeah.
Double check. Okay, nothing else on that one? Oh, perfect.
We're on target.
Great morning team.
So someone better come,
Well, you're up for reconvening the meeting.
oh, thank you. Start again, reconvene again, yeah.
And I'll, acting chair, I'll move we go into committee.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Councillor O'Neill moved to go into close. Who are we going to pick? Who was first?
Councillor Hancock.
Councillor Hancock. Seconded. All those in favour? 8-0.
Please go ahead.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to declare a conflict. I, Councillor Joanne Hancock, declare that I have a conflict of interest as defined by the Local Government Act 2009, Section 175D and E for the agenda item LC1 with the subject heading Surat Board Consultation Summary. The personal interest arises because of my relationship with another person. The name of the other person is Rachel Paravicini. The nature of my relationship with this person is she is my mother. The nature of the other person's interest in the matter is Rachel is the treasurer of the SDDA and a letter has been presented from the SDDA regarding the Surat bore as part of this report. I have determined that this personal interest is not of sufficient significance that it will lead me to making a decision on the matter that is contrary to the public interest. I will best perform my responsibility of serving the overall public interest of the whole of the council area by participating in the discussion and voting on the matter. However, I acknowledge that the remaining councillors must now determine, pursuant to Section 175E, Section 4 of the Local Government Act 2009, A, whether I have a real conflict of interest in this matter or a perceived conflict of interest in this matter, and B, if so, whether 1, I must leave the meeting while this matter is discussed or voted on, or 2, I may participate in the meeting in relation to the matter, including by voting on the matter.
Okay, do we have anyone move on that? Councillor.
I'll move that Councillor Joanne Hancock has a perceived conflict of interest in the matter, and notwithstanding the conflict, Councillor Hancock may participate in the matter discussed and vote upon it.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Anyone wishing to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor.
Another vote, sorry.
It's
habit.
We'll do that again. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay.
Is that all? I'll move we go.
No, I think,
There's nothing.
Oh, you got
I'm the only one, okay. Yeah. Mr Mayor, I, Councillor Jeff McMullen, declare that I have a perceived conflict of interest as determined by the Local Government Act 2009, Section 175D and E for the agenda item LC7 with the subject heading Glen Olive Road access to Mount Howe. The name of the person named is Dan Creevy. The nature of my relationship with the person is my legal representative. The nature of the other person's interest is he is representing one of the landholders mentioned in the report. I have determined that this personal interest is not of sufficient significance that it will lead me to making a decision on the matter that is contrary to the public interest. I will best perform my responsibility by observing the overall public interest of the whole of the time council area by participating in the discussion and voting on the matter. However, I acknowledge that the remaining councils must now determine pursuant to Section 175E(4) of the Local Government Act 2009 that A, whether I have a real conflict of interest in this matter or a perceived conflict of interest in this matter, and if so, whether I must leave the meeting while the matter is discussed or voted on, or I may participate in the meeting in relation to the meeting, including by voting on the matter.
Okay, do we have anyone to move? Councillor Guthrie?
I'd like to move that Councillor Jeff McMullen does not have either a real conflict of interest or a perceived conflict of interest in the matter and is accordingly free to participate in the meeting, and while this matter is discussed, including by voting on the matter.
Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor Taylor, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. 8-0. Okay. We have someone moving to close.
I'll move regarding committee.
We have a seconder. Councillor Burkett, any opposition? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0.
Hello, this is Kent.
G'day, Kent. It's Tyson Donald. How you going?
Good, thank you. Hello, Mr. Mayor. Hello, Councillors.
Good,
Hello.
We're very keen to be here.
We're very appreciative of you emailing, Kent.
No, that's fine, not a problem.
So do we have a question?
Yes.
Kent, my question was, I'd like to see that the schools have the same access as far as community groups. Is there any reason, if council decides to do that, do we have the power to do that?
Mr. Mayor, the report as it sits there is currently for the bores that we didn't cover in that previous resolution of the previous council for the water in the Maranoa project. So currently the bores that we're alluding to there, none of those actually directly supply schools as such. The ones from the water in the Maranoa project, the project of which I've referenced the report, that they do. All I would have to say there is I would like to just check before I could give a definitive answer with some of the funding agreements whether there were any restrictions or prohibitions on that. But what I could suggest, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, is that I could review that and prepare a subsequent report back to council, maybe in light of looking at the guidelines around that resolution at the time.
Right, so this one doesn't have any bearing on that anyway, so.
No, Mr. Mayor, this one relates to, there's really only 4 water facilities that it relates to. One is the Mitchell Saleyard bore, which is used to supply a couple of off-takes for commercial businesses and the Pony Club at Mitchell. The other one is the Bargunya bore, which is one that council's constructed for roadworks use, which currently has no off-takes and we've not received any inquiries to, so it's sort of halfway between Mitchell and Bollock. The main one that we're referencing in that report is the Hodgson Community Bore, the one that was done a number of years ago to supply landholders in the Hodgson area. So none of those facilities relating to this report actually supply or are likely in the immediate future to supply water to schools at this stage. Certainly, if you're wanting to go back and have a look at the resolution at the time around the watering the Maranoa project for the Peel Bar and the game board specifically, then I'd be more than happy to do that and bring a report back to council if you would like.
Well, that gives me the clarity for this report anyway, and yeah, I would like to investigate that for our schools.
Okay.
Mr Mayor, I'm having a bit of trouble hearing what was Kent saying, which...
So this report has nothing to do with the couple of schools that are connected as part of that water in the Maranoa, the federal government drought money.
Four balls.
Yeah, so this has nothing to do, these are for some other balls, but it's just referenced in the report about that, the others. So really, this has got nothing to do with that. So.
No. Mr Mayor, I referenced that other report just so council was aware for the sake of continuity what was as regards pricing and arrangements and that sort of thing with that report. But that was the purpose of reference to that report in the report.
Okay. Any other questions, councillors?
No.
Could you see page 243, Jeff?
Yeah, I do that.
The three.
So we're referring to Hodgson, Barganya and Mitchell.
Yes.
So is that correct?
Yes.
So really there would be no non-for-profit other than Mitchell Side Yards probably.
The Pony Club.
Mr Mayor, if I may, the Hodgson Soldiers Memorial Hall may have a not-for-profit offtake at no charge from the Hodgson Ball as well.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you.
And can the Maranoa Pony Club would be the same, wouldn't it?
Yes, Councillor Burnett, that's correct. The Maranoa Pony Club is the one that currently receives water from the offtake at the Sado School. The purpose of this report is basically, where we've got some clearly defined, processes around those agreements, is to save us having to bring all of those agreements back to council for endorsement, just administratively so that we can execute those. As long as they're consistent with the policy, but certainly taking on board, I will discuss with the manager the possibility of reviewing circumstances around that other project, with a looking at the possibility of bringing that back to council for consideration.
Okay, any other questions, councillors? Well, thank you, Kent, for taking up your time after hours. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Kent.
No, my pleasure, not a problem at all.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Which was in the white on page 355. We were seeking information about the others, whether or not they had.
Correct.
Remember?
Which one? 3 what?
Oh, yeah,
Well,
we'll deal with this one first, but the CEO knows about it.
Did we go?
We are in open.
Okay, so we're in open, so we can deal with 13.2, delegation authority to execute water agreements for community water facilities. We have a mover.
Well, Mr Mayor, myself and Councillor Guthrie, I moved, Councillor Guthrie
Yes.
has already seconded.
We had, great. Okay, so any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to this motion?
No, thanks.
Go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. So now, Phil, we're on to, Brittany, we're on to closed.
What are we going to do this?
Which one's page 351?
355.
Is that 13.6?
13.10.
Yes.
13 point.
Well, we just have to get the information.
13.6.
Did we get in 299?
Page 299 on the table.
Councillor Guthrie, have you had any information on that?
No, I haven't. No, not at all.
Where are we, 299?
This one.
13.6 is on page.
I believe it has already been moved and seconded as well.
Okay, so what else do we have in open still?
Oh,
Yeah,
this was, we're finding
page
out.
299.
Yeah,
This is the branding.
we need to find out,
About the sponsorship.
about how we pay for the sponsorship.
In the future.
Oh, yeah, whether it was first year or
Now,
over
is this
3.
moved, this was moved by
Councillor O'Neill
Councillor
moved it, you
O'Neill.
seconded it?
Yeah.
We didn't take any vote, then we moved to lay it on the table.
So if we alter this at all, should we need to ring Councillor O'Neill to make sure that he can, because he moved it?
We might even be, CEO, do we have any advice on this one? to do with those future years?
We need to make a decision on this today because it's the 30th of July deadline.
It was saying,
He was-
$600.
That's still there? He was there a while
He
ago.
did pop in.
Opened his head in the door a bit early.
It meant $600 difference year to year, so council could have a single year sponsorship. If they so, like, it's not a lot of dollars.
So if we just went with 1 year, it would be $600 more.
Difference.
Oh, over the total.
So is he available? If not, can we just lay it on the table?
No, it's got to be-
Well, it's got a deadline of a Thursday, the 30th of July. The feature will be appearing in Queensland Country Life on Thursday, the 30th of July. So 30th of July. So before our next meeting.
How do we get on? There's a mover and a seconder on the books, and the mover's not here.
That's an interesting.
Well, why don't we?
We could bring.
Just for that one.
Yeah.
Do you want me to message?
Who can use the phone?
I can use the phone.
That's what I mean.
Should I just quickly ring and see if he's available?
Yeah, you check.
And I'll check it again. Just pretty sure that's what he was saying.
We get him on, we can keep him on all the time.
So it's probably changing now.
So, when we had advice today, the officer said that he checked legal advice on it, which was okay. He'd received legal advice. So the other question is, do we just go with the motion as it is? With the move and second?
Yep, just let it go.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Just the mover won't be here to vote.
It just rang out, but I was just sort of doing a message.
But it's his, it's Councillor O'Neill's motion, he's happy we're not changing it.
Yep.
We could test it, and did you remember when the officer said that he checked legal advice and we could do it?
Yeah.
He had checked with strategic finance, Mr.
If it's a problem, can we rescind it later?
The other options, can we just leave it till last, Mr. Mayor, and we can probably continue to try and get on to.
We've got a while.
Yeah.
It's got a while, okay.
Yeah, we've got plenty
It
of
might
other
be
stuff.
just put
The
it
only
on
thing, it's a bit easier for the staff to just go and get these done, but we can do that. So you are comfortable with us? Right, okay, well, we'll move on, we've got plenty to do. Okay, so can we go to C1 then? Or do we have another one?
Yeah, there is 13.10, page 355.
Have we got the information for it?
Yeah, this, Julie's just sent something.
I think it does positively answer the question that councillors were on.
So what was it that they were known by the?
Well, they've recommended contacting a particular group that are actually listed here as being the preferred people to actually, they specialise in
Paintings. There had been a discussion with one area that they specialise in projects rather than paintings, whereas they named these two people, and one of which is
Is there any deadline with this one? Because I think it's a big issue, and I think we've got to make sure it's spot on. Because I don't think there's any deadline with this. So I'm happy to move that we lay this on the table to a future meeting.
Didn't we get the answer? We got the answer? Has the CEO got the answer?
But I'd like to know that it's rock solid
before.
Anyway, let's test let the laying on the table. All those in favour? All those against? Was anybody against?
Well,
No.
No.
Okay, so 8-0. Thank you. Righto, we'll keep going. Is there any others? Righto, so Brittany, we're happy to go to C1. Page 4, Bigger Big Rig Project Financial D. We have a mover. Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that number 1, council authorise the executive chief officer or delegate to finalise the draft project deed/key stakeholder protocol between council and Visit Roma, recognising their financial commitment of $10,000 to stage 1 of the Bigger Big Rig project. Number 2, the draft deed/key stakeholder protocol be circulated to councillors for input in the first instance. Number 3, once steps 1 and 2 are completed, invite Visit Roma to meet with councillors and relevant officers to discuss the proposed draft deed/key stakeholder protocol and the next stages of the Bigger Big Rig and Tree Walk project.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. C2, Rosalie Road Upgrade, Gravel Resheet and Minor Realignment, Landowner Compensation Agreement. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council authorise the chief executive officer or delegate to formally enter into a road agreement with the landholder of Block 2 on registered plan RP 200575 and complete the required actions with the Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energy to effect and formalise the realignment of Bradley Road between changes 13580 to 14180.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. C3, council vacant land, lot 17 on M3831. Well, Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council offer for sale by tender property located at Rose Smith Lane, Muckadilla and described as lot 17 on M3831.
We have a seconder. Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. We have the next page number, C4, page 23, registered trademark renewal. Do we have a mover? Councillor Edwards.
I move that council renew trademark registration number 1394458 being Maranoa Regional Council logo for a 10-year period. Number 2, not renew trademark registration number 1394267 being in brackets device only as the trademark is no longer in use.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition to this motion? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, moving on to C5, page 32, council asset age pensioner cottages, Mitchell. We have a mover, Councillor Burkett.
I move that the council offer for tender the removal of 2 disused aged pensioner cottages located at 97 Ann Street, Mitchell, ensuring that the central cottage remains on site for use by the Ringer Action Group Incorporated.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Page 50. C6, Audit Committee Terms of Reference. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that council approve the establishment of, number one, approve the establishment of an audit committee, subject to point 7 below. Number two, adopt the policy terms of reference for the committee. Number three, appoint 2 councillors as audit committee members. Number 4, set the external audit committee member meeting allowance to $1,200 per meeting for the chairperson and $1,000 per meeting for each member, effective from the re-establishment of the committee and their first meeting. Number 5, where an audit committee member is required to use his or her private motor vehicle to travel to and from their home or workplace outside the Roma town area to attend an audit committee meeting in Roma, that the travel allowance rate will be calculated at the kilometres travelled round trip at or times 88 cents per kilometre, effective from the re-establishment of the committee and their first meeting. Number 6, call for expressions of interest from qualified accountants for the positions of external member to form a new audit committee. Number 7, in the event that council's category changes and therefore the legislative requirement to have an audit committee ceases to exist, then the audit committee be discontinued.
Councillor Guthrie, did you want to nominate?
Yeah, nominated 2 councillors.
Oh, did I just miss one?
Sorry.
You did say appoint 2.
2 and I'd like number 3.
No, but we're
No.
Oh, we're going to name them. Oh, can I nominate, please, the Mayor, Tyson
Well,
Gold?
you're appointing.
So we're
I'm appointing.
We're effectively adding to point 3.
Well, I would like to appoint 2 of our councillors, our current councillors, Tyson Golder as Mayor, and also Councillor Mark Edwards to be on the.
And you're just amending what you said.
It's on the screen, yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether we should clarify that councillors, there's no remuneration for councillors.
No, it says external.
It says that in.
For external audit,
Yeah,
so that
no, that clarifies it.
Can't
That's
double
fine.
up. We'll all put our
In
hands up.
case someone's reading it.
That to make money on the side.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we have a second for that motion. Councillor Taylor, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. C7, page 65. C7, request to waive water charges, assessment number 12008967. I would like to move that council, I would like to lay this matter on the table. I'll change it. I would like to move that council have a deputation with the Gungari Native Title Aboriginal Corporation representatives, and the balance of the report lay on the table until council representatives can seek information from other parties that may have information relevant to council's deliberations. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladwell. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. C8, page
100.
100. C8, Sarap Ball 1, drilling and construction. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that this lay on the table for further information. I think I've got the right one.
Yeah.
To a future meeting,
I
councillor?
don't think to see it just for.
For a future meeting, to get more
Lay on the
information.
table pending
What do
further
you have?
advice.
Pending further advice.
Right, well, that'll leave it open. You can bring it any time. So a special meeting could be Any of that? Yep. Okay, we've got a second, councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. C9, tender 20027, supply, storage and delivery of chemicals for swimming pool treatment, drinking, water treatment and sewage treatment. We have a move, councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council once select the following suppliers as the recommended suppliers for the supply, storage and delivery of chemicals for swimming pool treatment, drinking water and sewage treatment for their applicable capital portions. Coogee QCA Proprietary Limited, sodium hypochlorite, bulk, sodium hypochlorite IBC 1000 litres, Roma Home Improvement Centre, sodium hypochlorite IBC 1000 litre, sodium hypochlorite any size IBC, all other chemicals. Mitchell Hardware and Plumbing, all other chemicals for Mitchell requirements. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to enter into final negotiations with the recommended supplier and form a contract to provide the goods if the final terms are acceptable. That's right, yeah, that's the end of story, thanks.
So how long is that for a period, councillor McMullen?
Oh, sorry, I'd have to add that, that's correct. For .3 for a 12-month term of 12 months. Does that sound good? Yep.
Okay, we have.
Sorry, Chair. Can I suggest that
You want to lay on the table?
I think we should lay it on the table. Thank you.
Councillor McMullen, would you be happy to lay that on the table?
I'll lay it on the table until a further meeting? Or next?
Future meeting.
Future meeting, sorry, yeah.
Okay, all those in favour? 8-0. Okay, moving on. C9. 10. C10, thank you. Page 139. C10, debt management and recovery services. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that Council 1 select Recoveries and Reconstruction Australia Proprietary Limited as the recommended supplier for debt management and recovery service pursuant to section 234 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 exception for local government arrangements. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to enter into final negotiations with the Recoveries and Reconstruction Australia Proprietary Limited and form a contract to perform debt management and recovery services if the final terms are acceptable.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hancock. Just one question on this one. How long will this period run for with this motion? Is there a time limit on it, or it's just till it's reviewed again?
I would recommend 3 years.
Okay, so in that motion, does it say a time or?
No, it doesn't. But it could be that when they're selected as the recommended supplier for debt management and recovery services, it could be for a period of 3 years pursuant to section 234.
Yes.
You don't think that's too
You want
long?
to put that in there, Julie? I'm happy to put that in there. So I can read number 1 again. that I move that council select Recoveries and Reconstruction Australia Proprietary Limited as the recommended supplier for debt management and recovery services for a period of 3 years, pursuant to section 234 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, exception for local government arrangements. And number 2 be exactly as I read before.
Would the mover be happy for an amendment to make that 12 months?
I'm open to, I'm happy for 12 months.
Okay, so I'll second that motion on the basis that it changes to 12 months.
Hang on,
I've got to ask the second, Mr Mayor.
Oh, sorry, you've already seconded it.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, sorry. So I'll move an amendment where the mover and the seconder is happy to go for a 12-month period.
I would, may I ask a question?
Sure.
I'd just like to know your thinking behind that.
I think we're a new council and that if there, is future changes, that I believe 3 years is nearly the whole term of council. So you're locked into that period of time. So having flexibility, it could be 12 months' time, you go for 2 years or 3 years, but I don't think you've had the amount of time to see, how things work.
Okay, thank you.
But is the mover happy with that amendment?
I'm happy with that amendment.
And what about the seconder?
Yeah.
Okay, that is the motion then. Okay, does anyone wish to speak for or against the motion? Then we go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, C11, 239. C11, tender 20023, register of pre-qualified suppliers for dry hire of equipment. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
Just before I do I have to move the whole table?
Yeah. You're closed.
That's why I didn't rush into it.
I move that Council 1 approve the formation of Council's register for pre-qualified suppliers for dry hire of equipment established in accordance with S232 of the Local Government's Regulation 2012. 2, include the following list of suppliers in the register under the headings below following pages. 3, approve the pre-qualification remaining current until 1st of July 2024. And 4, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter in the deed of agreement with the selected tenderers, formalising the terms and conditions detailed in the draft agreement. Supplier BL and MM Green, BMG Trading, star rating 5. Coates Hire Operation Proprietary Limited, rating 1 star. Do I got to do the stars? Compass Equipment Sales Proprietary Limited, 0 stars. Complant Pty Ltd, 0 star. Corbett Timber Haulage, 1 star. Easy Equip Hire Pty Ltd, 1 star. GSS Hire Ground Support Systems, 0 star. Hastings Steering Australia Limited, 0 star. J&J Earth Moving Queensland, 5 star. JD and TJ Bell, 5 star. MTE Sales and Services Proprietary Limited, 0 star. On-Site Rental Group Operations Proprietary Limited, 1 star. Positions Partners, 0 stars. Premier Services, 0 star. Quarry Mining Haulage Proprietary Limited, 0 star. Rollers Australia's Proprietary Limited, 1 star. Rosemec Sales and Services Proprietary Limited, 0 star. Serious Waste Proprietary Limited, Global Equipment Proprietary Limited, 0 star. Sharp Brothers Australia Proprietary Limited, 0 star. Sharon Rentals Proprietary Limited, 0 star. Swans Earth Moving Queensland Proprietary Limited, 5 star. TNW Earth Moving, 3 star. TFH Hire Services Proprietary Limited, 0 star. And Tut Bryant Hire Proprietary Limited, 0 star.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Hancock. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
No amendments.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Yeah, he's all no one will do the next one.
Page 264. C12, tender 20024, register of pre-qualified suppliers for wet hire of equipment.
Well, I'll go again. Everyone's scared.
I was just about to go.
Oh, yeah. There's just one, did we work out with the Matt Lister if it was a top 5 star?
That's a majority.
I move that Council 1 approve the addition of suppliers to Council's register of pre-qualified suppliers for wet hire of equipment established in accordance with S232 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 and listed in the table below. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter into a deed of agreement with selected tenderers formalising the terms and conditions detailed in the draft agreement. Tenderer's name, Bitu Mill Road Maintenance Proprietary Limited, 0 star. Corbetts Group, 2 star. HBS Earth Moving Proprietary Limited, 0 star. HTD Australia Proprietary Limited, 0 star. Ison Haulage Proprietary Limited, 0 star. J&J Earth Moving Queensland Proprietary Limited, 5 star. Joe Wagner Group, 0 star. Matt Lister Earth Moving, 5 star. Quarry Mining Haulage Proprietary Limited, 0 star. Specialty Services Queensland, 0 star. TJ and JE Campbell Proprietary Limited, 0 star. Tunnel Vision Services Proprietary Limited, 0 star. G&R Brown and Sons Proprietary Limited, 0 star. And Buck Scott Haulage Proprietary Limited, 0 star. Thank you and good night.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor. Any opposition to the motion? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour, 8-0. C13, page 288. C13, funding opportunities under the Domestic Aviation Route Restart Program. Do we have a mover? Councillor Edwards.
I move that Council, number 1, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to enter into and sign the funding agreement with Tourism and Events Queensland. Number 2, authorise the Manager, Airports, to use the funding for a combination of advertising under the Good to Go campaign with Tourism and Events Queensland and airline incentives to boost capacity into Roma Airport through direct payments supporting tourism and connectivity for Maranoa residents.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. C14, 310. C14, program maintenance contract for security screening equipment at Roma Airport. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I move that 1, Council engage Smiths Detection Australia Pty Ltd to service the passenger and baggage screening equipment at the Roma Airport for a period of 6 years from 3rd of July 2020. 2, engagement to be made in accordance with S235A of the Local Government Regulation 2012 that the local government resolves it is satisfied that there is only one supplier who is reasonably available. And 3, Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter the final negotiations with Smiths Detection Australia Pty Ltd and execute the services contract if the final terms are acceptable.
We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, moving on to C15, 322. Thank you. C15, update to regular public transport flight fee deferrals. We have a mover. Councillor Ladbrook.
I move that Council receive and note the officer's report as presented.
We have a seconder. Councillor Edwards, any opposition to the motion? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. C16, page 324. C16, Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program. Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 submit nominations for projects under the Australian Government's Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign the submission forms and any further grant agreements as required.
We have a seconder. Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, do we have a C17?
We do.
Page 331.
Thank you. Run out of numbers. 331, request to waive Roma Sayard's fees and charges, Nutrin Ag Solutions fundraiser, Royal Flying Doctor Service. Councillor Taylor.
I move that number 1, council waive all fees and charges associated with selling livestock at the Roman sale yards for all livestock donated to the Royal Flying Doctor Service on Tuesday, the 18th of August 2020. And number 2, all livestock that are donated to the Royal Flying Doctor Service for the fundraiser be penned, auctioned and weighed first. Number 3, Roma Saleyard's contribution be recognised and their logo be used in all promotions and associated media including advertising for the event.
Do we have a seconder?
Oh.
Sorry, Councillor McMullen was the seconder. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. C18, Roma Sale Yards Bull Sales. I'd like to move that Council endorse Roma Livestock's agents request that from Monday, from 2021, bull sales not scheduled.
You want to lay that on the table till we talk to the vendors?
Yeah, I was going to put that in an extra point, but
okay.
I could lay it on the table.
What did you want to do?
Just basically contact the long-standing sale and just ask whether they're happy to go with that.
Well, we haven't heard from them at all.
No.
But the agent did say that he spoke to them.
Yeah.
But there's somewhere obviously behind it.
You might want to seek confirmation that this does not have an impact on the vendors.
Yeah, I might remove point 1, please, and start with the new one. So, Councillor Guthrie, if you would like to assist there. Seek confirmation.
Seek confirmation from the vendors that.
Oh, sorry, is it?
It's just
Sorry, I think for what? Do you mean that we seek advice from another stakeholder?
Yes.
Prior to making a decision?
Yeah.
Stakeholder, that's a better word.
So that council engage with another stakeholder prior to making a decision?
Because it was a bit weird where we had that report saying that they were definite and then it was a contradiction at that meeting.
So the council engage with another stakeholder prior to making a decision?
Do you want to do that with the 2 stakeholders or just the 1?
Just stakeholders.
With other stakeholders?
Other, not another.
Other stakeholders?
Stakeholders, plural.
Great, I'm happy with that. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Ladbrook, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
I'm against the motion. I'm in opposition, sorry.
Okay. So Councillor Ladbrook seconds. We have opposition from Councillor McMullen. Would you wish to speak?
Mr Mayor, I believe the stakeholder in this case is the agent. We've already met with them. Heard from them.
So, sorry, so they, I'm just a bit confused with the bull sale, those people that had the Hereford ones, were one of those guys representing them, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
The agent that represents themselves for them, yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so are you happy to, have you spoken, Councillor McMullen?
Yeah, no, I just...
Okay. So then what I'm saying is that there's generally like an association behind, there's a group of, studs, and that's who I'd like to consult with to make sure that they're happy, and then council come back to make the final decision. So we got some advice the other day, and we totally respect that, but we also would like, this motion would enable us to talk to the people that actually would sell. Well, okay, we would actually get back to those studs that are involved.
Can we, well, what did we say, put a deadline on it? So, because I think it's all needs to be pushed through, so.
Yeah, so it's for next year, but.
It's for next year though.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not for this year.
Oh, not Harry, yeah, that's right.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Who seconded it, sorry?
Councillor Ladbrook.
That's right, sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, we'll do it again. All those in favour? All those against? 7-1 for division. Okay, moving on.
I'm out, Mr Mayor,
Thank you.
Get your knitting.
for the next two.
Right.
Find a warm spot.
Councillor Hancock is leaving the room. C19, tender specifications, production and distribution of the Bottle Tree Bulletin. We have a mover. Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that council approve the tender specifications for the production and distribution of voluntary bulletins.
We have a seconder. Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. C20, page 353, approval of water storage, Hay Roma Dam. Councillor,
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move the motion, but just like to ask the CEO first. I'd like to put a timeline. How long would you require to send the letter out without it being too pushy?
No, if something's urgent, Councillor McMullen, we can turn that around as quickly as possible.
The days.
Goes the 22nd.
Would you like that to council go out this week?
Well, I was going to say by Monday the 27th anyway. Is that? That too?
No, that should be fine.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that one council write to Dr Anthony Lynham, Minister for Natural Resources, Mines and Energy, no later than the 27th of July, seeking further clarification of approval and construction timelines for Hay Roma Dam with particular reference to the post-construction approval process. 2, a copy of the document attached to the report titled Notification of Existing Overland Flow Works be included with the letter to the Minister. And 3, council be provided a further report at an upcoming meeting once a response is received.
do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? Going to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Thank you. Okay, C21, page 361, Roma Sayards and multi-purpose facility.
Mr. Mayor, I move that a report be prepared for an upcoming council meeting.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? Are you in favour?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I was just playing catch up.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
I was just,
Okay,
thank
done.
you.
8-0. C22, 362. Righto, cool. C22, tender 20029, Yulbar Bore 2, drilling construction. Councillor Hancock.
I move that we lay this on the table for further information.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Second, Mr Mayor?
No, not the vote.
Oh, sorry.
Procedural.
Procedural, mate.
Oh, sorry.
All those in favour? 8-0.
Mr Mayor, may I, Councillor O'Neill has texted me back and he's available. If we could do it now, otherwise he's going to scream. So would that be okay if we, sorry Cal. 30.6. Yes, if we could go to 30.6.
13.6.
Bring the white document.
Page 299.
Page 299.
299, yeah.
No,
299.
299.
Hello, Cameron speaking.
Hi Councillor O'Neill.
What page number do we?
299.
Can you hear us, Councillor O'Neill?
Yes, I can, yeah.
13.6, request for sponsorship Queensland Young Auctioneers. We had a mover and a seconder.
And a third.
Cameron.
And a third.
Mr.
Just squeezed.
Mr Mayor, can I amend this? Can I put it for a moment?
If the mover is happy with that.
Councillor O'Neill, I'm suggesting an amendment that we do the sponsorship for 1 year.
Yes. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Someone else isn't, but I'm happy with that.
So councillors, we just do it for the 1 year and then we can consider it for the future years. I'll just read it out, Councillor O'Neill. That Council 1 authorise the CEO to sign the agreement. 2, approve the sponsorship request for a 1 year period starting in 2020/2021.
Sorry, just to clarify, we might sort of switch that around if you're okay, Councillor Hancock. We approve the sponsorship request for 1 year for the 2020/21 financial year.
Yeah.
And then authorise me to sign the agreement.
Okay. So number 1 will be approve the sponsorship request for a 1 year period for the 2020/2021 financial year. Number 2, authorise the CEO to sign the agreement. Number 3, draw the first. Number 3 will be to commit to allocate the sponsorship.
No, we don't need all of that now.
Do we need to do the sponsorship budget from GL? That first one, CEO?
We can draw the sponsorship payment. I think council's intention was for that to be from Roma Sayards. That's right.
This is that's an in-kind budget, that budget? That's the in-kind sponsorship budget.
Draw the sponsorship payment from the sponsorship budget.
Mm-hmm.
And then the branding and the sponsorship is from the Roma Sayards.
Yeah. So do you want me to read that again, Councillor O'Neill?
No, I heard it, that's fine.
Perfect.
So you.
And as the mover, I'm happy with that, Mayor.
Sponsor payment, we don't need the amount there from the sponsorship budget. And then we don't need, just, yeah, that's just full stop there.
Have to take 4 and 4.
Take 4 and 5 out.
Those, and then
And number 6 was branding for the sponsorship is from the Roma Sale Yards, which is number 4 now.
Okay, you're happy with that as the mover, councillor O'Neill?
Yes, I am.
Right, and the second is happy with that?
Yes, I am, thank you.
Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Only to say, Mr Mayor, I think this is a fantastic opportunity for council to be involved with sponsoring the Queensland Young Auctioneers and linking that with the Roma Sale Yards.
Right, we'll go to the vote then. All those.
Sorry, we're just fixing up the wording.
We'll just wait a second then.
A minute takes to catch up. Okay, is council happy with that tidied up wording?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to the vote then. All those in favour?
Yes.
Okay, 1-0.
Thank you very much, councillor O'Neill.
Thank you.
Thanks for being so accommodating, guys. I'll talk to you next week.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we're back to C21, Roma Sale multi-purpose facility.
Which?
Oh.
361.
We've done that, Mr Mayor.
Yeah,
Oh, we did that?
We finished that paper, that's why
We're on the
we
late
jumped.
We're on the white one. I like that.
The white or the light pink, is that correct?
Whichever one we want to do. Which one's easiest for you, Lane?
C23, you had to finish off, which some of you are on the white paper. C23.
Yeah.
But it's odd, 13 point.
Yeah, 30.11.
What's it,
In the white paper.
in the white, is it?
Yeah, it's on the back of yours.
In the pink.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
No, it's
In mine, so it was updated.
Yeah.
With
Here it is. Got it.
In the white
I
grass.
thought there was a bit more to go.
whoever's in the white, tell me a page.
Page
please.
135 of the white.
it was 13.
Oh, yes, I get that.
177, is it?
Okay, C23, LGAQ Master Data Sharing Agreement. Do we have a mover? Councillor Ladwell.
I move that council
135, Joe.
note the contents of this report and authorise the chief executive officer or delegate to sign the master data sharing agreement with LGAQ.
We have a seconder.
And the minute tables will add 1 and 2.
Do me to read that again?
This one. Are you happy with that, councillor Ladwell, if we just add 1
Yep.
and 2? Yeah.
We have a seconder. Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, now we're out of there.
Which one would you like? What colour would you like?
Well, we'll ask the, Brittany, which one would be best for you next?
LC1.
LC1,
I knew that.
LC1, Surat Law Consultation Summary. We have a Councillor Hancock.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that 1, the matter lay on the table until the next ordinary meeting to allow for further consultation with the community. 2, council contact personally the respondents and invite both the respondents and the rest of the community to a further consultation, including indicative costings for the project on Monday the 3rd of August, 11 AM at the Stratshire Hall. 3, the information include minimum water restriction amount examples in Queensland for potable water per person.
Just before, it'd be 3, wouldn't they? Counting the Waroo.
So it is
3
all.
lots of people.
Well, it's personally the respondents and invite.
Both, I'm thinking both as in, yeah, I'm with you. All good.
But maybe and invite all the respondents.
Mm.
Can I amend that?
Yeah,
please,
3,
Mr.
didn't
Mayor?
we?
Because it just sounds like there's 2.
Yeah.
It's not.
No.
And also, with that information to include, we would have the amount of water that can handle down the pipeline. Is that what councillors understand?
It's in the report, well, the
But
report.
I just want to know that we're just going to put that out for consultation as well. Are you happy with that?
Well, I think part of the meeting we will have information that we'll be taking to the community. So
And that information would be available, so, you know.
And we discussed that with the officer today.
Can I suggest, councillors, with point 3 that just say if possible, because I'm just wondering, I'm worried whether we'll be able to comply with what your meaning there, Mr. Mayor. We can try, but.
Yeah, just examples, for instance, of what other local authorities have for water usage when they're on water restrictions. But yeah, just so we can obviously, the idea is to give the community all the facts and to be able to pass on how much water can come down, for instance, from the complex, if we use the pipeline, so they can do their own sums and work it out.
It's just that we have quite a unique situation
Yeah.
where there and with other communities, the drinking water is still used for stamp gardens and things.
And just also, if the river's dry, God forbid, it'll go back to that one thing, so that's when that would apply in that emergency situation.
Or like we had a contamination and then we're offline, and that's when it does apply.
So you probably allow for worst case
Rather
scenario.
than water restriction, do you mean maybe emergency?
Yep, I do.
Yeah, like worst case scenario.
Minimum emergency usage per person per day. It's like being
Yeah, so it
lowest
is.
level.
Yeah.
And could it be water usage amounts?
Is it water consumption?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's actually done per person, like that's how they have the
So
water.
it's emergency water consumption because she was suggesting
Or water
today.
usage.
Yeah.
Water usage.
Water usage.
Yeah.
Okay. And may I also, sorry, we're now changing this a little bit, but may I also take out in item 2, council contact personally the respondents and invite. Council contact the respondents and invite. I think it just sounds funny. Like if they're going to contact it, that's contacting them personally.
As long as we're going to actually ring people and make sure that they knew that we're coming, rather than we sent a note and I didn't know anything about it, you know, so it's a big thing.
How do we notify the residents? Normally?
Can we not? Can we not know that we've used this process at Yulba last week? We're going to mirror that process as discussed. So I'm happy with that.
And then we probably don't need the minimum then, because the information include emergency water usage.
Amount, yeah.
Usage examples in Queensland for potable water per person if possible.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so we had a mover, councillor Henry.
I'll second it.
We have a seconder, councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. LC2. Yulba Bore Water Treatment Plant Consultation Summary. We have a mover, councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that Council 1 approve the treatment plant and bore to be located at 10 Perry Street, Yulba. Approve the option of the black wire mesh fence to be installed. Number 3, inform the community of this decision as well as the extra steps being taken to make the site more attractive.
We have a seconder, councillor Edwards. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Just a question, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
The black wire fence, will we be able to beautify that if we need to, as suggested. I'm just
Yeah.
making sure that
Yeah.
the fencing, I'm just picking up on.
The only thing with that, if they take those stems, some of those
Yeah,
figurines out, they're black, so they won't stand out on a
I
black
didn't
fence.
realise.
Why a black fence?
No, but it's a wire mesh fence.
It's just got that coating.
Yeah, I know. Why a black?
It's probably a lot
Is
more
that their
expensive too.
policy or?
No, the feedback that I've heard before is that it's a more attractive fence option.
Okay.
But however, you make the point about that we did, like there was broad agreement to say that they wanted
Stuff on the fence.
a mural or something. So
What if we just leave the fence out for now?
Well,
Yeah.
or leave, maybe.
Appropriate fence to suit their needs to be installed.
Yeah.
well, the other question is, do you just take out, like you said, take out point 2 and then
Because it covers it in the last one
It's
anyway.
gonna happen anyway.
Point 3.
Yeah.
It covers it.
Because there was some there was conversation down there that they might even remove part of the fence and take the whole fence over, the existing fence.
And that,
So we just take out the fence.
Yeah.
because it's still got those things on it,
But perhaps we could have a third point to say, to look at options for a mural fence and bring back to council, so at least we're getting on with what the community said. Now, you mightn't go with it, but let's ask about it.
Can I make another suggestion I thought of
Why
earlier?
don't we just take it over?
Just to go on with the beautification, those silhouettes or whatever you want to call them, instead of being on that fence and blocking view, they could have them strategically placed around that block as a bit of a feature, you know, like, but I think they want to keep away in a separate spot.
I think we need to work with the
Yeah,
communication regarding the beautification of the project. This is about,
I think
we're putting the bore at 10 Perry Street.
I think that covers it anyway.
Yeah, it leaves it open for options.
Would you like me to read that again?
Yep,
Just the third one or?
The number 2 covers everything, I think.
Yeah, so number 2 is now, inform the community of this decision as well as the extra steps being taken to make the site more attractive.
Yep.
And number 3, look at the options for a mural fence to be brought back to council for further consideration.
Should we have to put, after consultation with the community, or is that just another step we've got to do?
For once it comes back.
Yeah, when it comes back, you can decide you like the option or you want to go back to something else. Or
Did you want to say following consultation with the community?
Yeah, otherwise we could be doing all this and they hate it.
What about community feedback? Because that's really what
Following consultation with the community.
what happens if they love it and council doesn't love it? Can't afford it. No, that's fine. Yeah, mover and seconder, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. LC3, meeting with Roma Livestock Agents. I'd like to move a report to be prepared for an upcoming council meeting. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay. LC4, addition to the road register, unnamed road on Wanwood Bank Gap Road. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I move that Council 1 include the section of unnamed roadway to Council's road register with the classification of rural access secondary and with recorded length of 0.510 kilometres. 2, name the section of unnamed roadway off Mollbank Gap Road, Blues Lane.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. LC5.
34.
Page 34, Roma Neighbourhood Centre. I'd like to move that council offer for sale or lease by tender lot 1 on SP 276517 being the former Roma Neighbourhood Centre. In the case of lease, this be on the basis of fit outs, maintenance, upgrades needed and outgoings at lessee's expense. And number 2, if the property fails to sell by tender, invite expressions of interest from not-for-profit community groups and organisations interested in tenanting the newer section of the property. And lessee is definitely the person that
We might just have the word,
these lessees expense. Okay, do we have a second for that motion? Yeah, that's great, because otherwise we'll bring that all around.
Which is not your intention.
I don't think it was council's either. Yeah, councillor Ladbrook seconds that motion. Is there any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. LC6, key stakeholder protocol. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that an intergovernment communique or template, number 1, sorry, let me start again. I'd like to move that number 1, an intergovernment communique or template be developed to facilitate the transfer of information / requests / concerns for the effective management of resident matters. Number 2, that the draft document be circulated to councillors for approval.
Could I just put review?
Circulated
Did you want it to come back to council or circulated informally?
I think it needs to be informally circulated for consideration and then come back to a council meeting prior to the 3rd step.
Well, we might just stop then at 2. Okay. That the draft document be brought back to a future meeting.
I would agree, because we may decide, rather than go with the proposed number 3, it may actually then shift a little bit and we may look at a different arrangement.
Just a question with that, Mr Mayor, is I thought there was some need for, I thought while we were going to email that around was the need to make that a bit quicker, the process.
The time frame?
There's a time frame.
We had hoped to, because the next meeting is not, although we could have a special meeting next week, that's another option.
But if you just email it to us, we'll come back with the feedback.
It's up to council.
I thought that was what we discussed.
I'm happy to do it that way, yeah.
Just for the time frame.
Keep you in the loop, and then making sure that then any input is placed into the draft document.
Yeah.
Ready for
circulation to councillors for review. Okay. And then that way you can have open to it in 3.
Okay, just because time is of the essence, maybe we do go that way and go back with number 3. Number 3, council invite the stakeholder and selected staff to have a meeting with the Mayor, Golder, Councillor Guthrie and the Chief Executive Officer to then provide background information and to seek feedback on the proposed way forward.
Do we have a second for that motion? Councillor Taylor, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, LC7, Glenfuller Road, access Mount Cow. We have a mover, Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move it. Council 1, receive and note the request from the landholders of Glen Olive to remove the northernmost section of Glen Olive Road, starting at the southern boundary of Glen Olive from the Council's Rural Road Register. 2, write to the landholders of Glen Olive and their legal representatives, acting on their behalf, and respectfully request a deferment of the proposed closure of Glen Olive Road for a period of 6 months while Council considers other potential access options for residents potentially impacted by the proposed closure. 3, be presented with a subsequent report to an upcoming ordinary meeting of Council regarding the viability and cost associated with the construction of a potential new access to Lot 7 on Plan WAR 15 via the area of the east of Glen Olive, currently set aside for use as a road. And 4, write to the landholders of Glen Olive and Lying Downs, inviting the owners to advise council in writing of any concerns regarding the construction of a potential new access to Lot 7 on Plan WAR 15 via the area to the east of Glen Olive, currently set aside for use as a road.
We have a seconder for that motion?
And I think point 3, it was, I think you meant councillor McMullen via the area to the east of as well.
East of Glen Olive Road.
To the east.
Currently set aside for use as a road.
So councillor Edwards seconded that motion. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour, 8-0. Any further business, council?
Yeah, two late white ones.
Late white?
Open.
Two in there.
Oh, just cool look with something by itself.
L1, Queensland Tourism Icons Program 2020.
Here we go.
Yes, councillor.
I move that the council submit an application funding to the value of $120,000 under the Queensland Tourism Icons Program 2020 to 1, upgrade the toilets at the Big Rig to the highest hygiene and COVID clean standards, and also ensure the bathroom facilities are people with disability PWD compliant, and 2, for marketing and promotion of the new Bigger Rig Tower and Tree Walk attraction.
Can I ask a question? With the Mitchell Spa, is that an icon, Queensland icon, part of the Queensland icon program? Do we know?
They're listed.
they're listed in the report, the ones that we.
Page.
And the Big Rig was the only one, Maranoa,
It's the only one.
that the government.
There are about 12 there.
Need to get our other corrections on the list.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a move, we have a seconder, councillor Hancock. Any opposition? Does the move wish to speak? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. L2, funding opportunities to host funny mummies.
Happy to move that, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 apply for funding for the stand-up comedy Funny Mummies under the Queensland Government's Arts Queensland Arts and Cultural Recovery Package Play Local program. 2, provide the Roma Cultural Centre as an in-kind sponsorship to host a comedy performance. 3, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign the funding agreement if the application is successful.
We have a seconder. Councillor Lathrop.
Yeah, I'll go. I'll be there.
Do we have anyone to speak to the motion of funny mummies?
Just to say, Mr. Mayor, I think once again, it's great to see some arts and cultural events. Looking forward to coming back and providing arts and culture to our community.
Making sure it's back.
Oh, Barry Humphries over there, be out the front row for us.
I'd also like to speak to this, and we're excited about stand-up comedy and the funny mummies coming to the Maranoa. So I can encourage everyone to get to the funny mummies and enjoy the performance.
If we're successful in the application.
If we're successful.
Gotta get it.
Okay, now we'll go to the vote if no one else wants to speak to that. All those in favour? 8-0.
At least we finished on a happy note.
Is there any other items from the team down there?
They look pretty done.
I just ordered pizza.
It went in.
You're done.
Good day.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
We should close the meeting.
Yeah, we'll be closing.
Okay, on that note, we're closing the meeting at 7:10 PM. Thank you for your attendance and your endurance.